Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the uniparty horseshit going on right now. Plenty of people blaming Donald Trump, MAGA, etc. for the midterm failings of the Republican Party. I would like to point out yet again, this is much more centrally the result of Mitch McConnell wasting millions of dollars in Alaska in a race where the GOP literally could not lose because it was a Republican versus another Republican to prop up his bloated ego than anything else. Of course, that money could have been used to prop up Blake Masters, who was effectively abandoned by the GOP uniparty. It could have been used for Laxalt in Nevada, who still has an advantage there, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. It could have been used to narrowly avoid a runoff in Georgia. Of course, there is less than a point that Herschel Walker needed to notch up in order to get over the 50% mark. In fact, the money that was spent on Murkowski v. Shabaka in Alaska would have been enough to prop up Herschel Walker, guaranteeing that Senate seat, no runoff needed, guarantee that Laxalt wins, probably carry Blake Masters over the finish line. This gives you the Senate majority, by the way, right there, while also potentially targeting Maggie Hassan and knocking her off and getting Bolduc into office. He had his problems with the Libertarian Party there, of course, but it's within the margin that you could have targeted it. There aren't that many voters in New Hampshire anyway. You could have done all this. You could have ended up with 2 or 3 Senate pickups. And instead, you're looking at a situation where now the best case scenario is 1 Senate pickup. Just 1. And that's requisite upon Laxalt winning and Herschel Walker winning the runoff in Georgia. These are MAGA candidates, by the way. Mitch McConnell is centrally responsible for much of that. Kevin McCarthy is responsible. Lindsey Graham, as I explained, is responsible because his national abortion ban that he pushed was so far beyond the pale and so bad timing, even Mitch McConnell told him to shut up. Here's what I would like to say. It's a warning to the Republican Party. Link in the description archived, of course. Liz Cheney right now is glowing with praise for what just happened because, of course, she wants to return to the old normal. If the GOP returns to the old normal of nominating people like Mitt Romney, John McCain, etc., if it goes the McConnell route, if it continues to do the Neocon Inc. thing, I will abandon the goddamn GOP. I'll fucking campaign for the far left just to piss you off. And I'm not the only one who will do this, by the way. There are a lot of reluctant Republican voters who are not fundamentally Republican and have goddamn liberal views on many of the issues that you're talking about, in my case, abortion being one of them, who simply want to legalize weed and fortify, and I don't mean fortify in the sense of Maricopa County, of course, the Second Amendment, who don't want the world policing thing going on, who supported you for the last few years, primarily because MAGA is a different breed of Republican. Populistic, has reasonable views with regards to the Constitution, is tech censorship averse, or at the very least questions it, pays lip service to the concept of the First Amendment. These are good things. They are not extreme things. They're not abnormal. Those are normal American values. When I see people like Liz Cheney saying, well, this is a victory for returning to normal. It's a victory for returning to sense and sensibility. That sense and sensibility is a post-Reagan construct made by goddamn Democrats. The originator of neoconservatism, with the world policing side, is way back in the 50s. Of course, the Allies autopsied what happened in World War II. They realized that the Nazis had gained territory in fuel-heavy areas in the Middle East, the Levant, etc., and that kept the war going longer than expected. The world policing side of it and the energy war side of it dates back to more than half a century ago. That's the birth of modern globalism. They realized that they had to do world policing to deny the Soviets supremacy over fuel supplies that we at the time didn't realize were right in our own backyard. Of course, the United States becoming energy independent for a brief few years under Donald Trump. Much better strategy than what we're doing now with Keystone, etc. But the modern globalistic era, as far as the détente, showing largesse, trading with nations that are hawkish and constantly fuck around with their own currency, etc., with protectionism, that's from the 1970s on. And really post-Reagan, the last couple of years of Ronald Reagan were unfortunately not like his first term. There was more world policing, there was more globalism, etc. And that's because he had Alzheimer's by that point. I would point out, of course, the current steward of the United States does as well. He had it the moment that he took office. I'm still skeptical, despite the midterm results, that he will run again, but we'll see at this point what happens. If he does, it'll be a barrel of fucking laughs, I'll tell you that much. Really, you're talking about Bill Clinton, or at least Herbert Walker Bush, and points thereon in the modern globalistic era. That is fairly recent in U.S. history. The general consensus before that was that you needed populism. It was good that the government should fundamentally represent the wishes of the population, by which I mean especially the working and middle class. The Republican Party at the time is not the Republican Party of people like Liz Cheney, John McCain, etc., Mitt Romney certainly, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and these other oafs, these other morons within the uniparty system. It's fine for the two parties, technically more than two, but we'll get past that again, to work together, to negotiate. That's a long-standing tradition. The idea is, I've got ideas, you've got ideas. We're not going to be able to get all of what we want, but we're going to be able to negotiate something that's tolerable for both of us. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. There are certain things on which there shouldn't be any negotiation. You should not be negotiating about sending billions of dollars overseas while we're in a recession. You should not be negotiating about whether people can or cannot exercise their constitutional rights. You should not be negotiating over whether you're going to have corporations muzzling people for political purposes. These are non-negotiable issues. The Democrats have non-negotiable issues. Abortion, for example. They've taken up the line that abortion should be legal up till the point of giving goddamn birth. And if the baby's fucked up, yeah, you just leave it to die on the slab. That's perfectly okay. They've got non-negotiable issues with regards to guns. They want to attack the Second Amendment. They wish it to die. They openly talk at some points about repealing the Second Amendment entirely. If the Democratic Party, both neo-lib and far left, have these sort of issues, why is it intolerable for anyone with views outside of that neoliberal and left-wing core to have issues on which they won't budge? And this is really how MAGA grew. MAGA is the result of the uniparty neocons, the GOP-y sort of neocon Inc. people, the Shapiros, the John McCains, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, giving ground over and goddamn over. They gave it for decades. They would take a step back and they would say, please don't call me a bigot. Please don't call me extreme. I'll do whatever you want. Just let me water it down slightly. That was the name of the game. This was the name of the game with George W. It was certainly the name of the game with people like goddamn Mitt Romney. Now, the first attempt to overthrow the GOP was the Tea Party. The problem with the Tea Party is that they mixed in televangelist moralism with their actual conservatism. Of course, people like myself can't really get aboard with that. Hey, you like guns as much as I do, but you think that I should be forced to go to church before I can buy one. I'm not entirely sold on that basic premise, just to be clear. MAGA was much more welcoming overall. It's much more American. It is the old norm for the United States, the concept that the government should care about the people that it represents. The concept that there are some things that are sacred under the Constitution and under our civic founding that cannot be negotiated on. If the Republicans go back to the old and dark days, to the fucking dark ages of George W. Bush, where they mix in a little bit of Jesus moralism with their overarching, watered-down conservatism, I ain't gonna support them. It's not gonna happen. Mitch McConnell is so goddamn bloatedly egotistical. The dude's 1,000 years old. He's like goddamn Strom Thurmond. His hands at one point were so blackened he looked like the Queen literally 2 days before she keeled. I wonder what CIA super drugs they gave him that she wasn't privy to, by the way. An old man clinging to power who would literally rather be the minority leader than get kicked out as leader and see his own party have a majority, because the people that take that majority wouldn't be lock, stock, goddamn lockstep with him. That's literally what we're seeing right now. Somehow Donald Trump is to blame for this. Yes, Donald Trump is the one that pulled funding for Blake Masters. Donald Trump is the one that decided to spend 9 million big ones on a race between two goddamn Republicans. Donald Trump's the one that abandoned Kerry Lake. Donald Trump's the one that didn't bother to target New Hampshire until the last couple days of the goddamn election. Dude, you could have flipped the goddamn New York gubernatorial seat with that fucking money. This is the uniparty in action. This is everything wrong with the Republican Party, everything that caused me for over a decade to be chastising them until the goddamn MAGA movement came along. I'm not sold on some of the elements of MAGA. There are plenty of mistakes that Donald Trump and his proxies and his allies have made. Donald Trump, for example, is so stuck on the 2020 election that he hasn't yet come out and gracefully done a pivot and said, look, unlike the Democrats, we're not going to look at the past. I'm getting past that. Yeah, there were shenanigans. Whatever. It's water under the bridge. We're looking to the future, which is exactly what he should do. But Donald Trump, in his worst goddamn moments, the worst things that he did during his presidency or thereafter, pale in comparison to the warmongering, the economic dysfunction, and everything goddamn wrong with the neocon uniparty system. They pale in comparison. If the GOP goes back to the old normal, which is hailed by Liz Cheney as a return to sense, it's hailed by John McCain's corpse, his fucking tumor-ridden ghost, as a wonderful time. If all of these people win, and the uniparty takes control of the GOP, prepare to be goddamn flatlined. That's about all. Peace out.